Hi, and welcome to the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins. I am a modern mystic, and I am here to share with you the beautiful wisdom and stories from women that desire to lead their lives inspired by the divine within them. The divinely inspired woman is devoted to walking the path of her soul's calling, tuning into the divinity within to navigate life with ease and grace through all circumstances. She cultivates beauty in her daily life. She is here to share the most authentic self each day through thick and thin. So I hope you'll enjoy our show today and that you will leave with an infusion of inspiration for your soul and for your day and living your life. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. I'm Patricia Wald-Hopkins, your host, and I have a beautiful guest with me today, Leah. And do you go by Leah Sonaria Emmott or just Leah Sonaria?
Well, Leah Emmott is my given name, but
Okay.
Sonaria is the name that was given to me by Source.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Well,
Yes.
we're presencing both aspects of your
Yes.
soul beingness here today. But thank you
hmm
for being here today with us. Delighted to have you here to talk a little bit about what you do in the world and this upcoming book, Stories of the Goddess, Divine Feminine Frequency Keepers, that you are a co-author in. And before we go there, I'm just going to tell people a little bit about you. And then you can tell us firsthand about yourself. But I know that you are a flow priestess, a transformational guide, a quantum activator, and ceremonial space holder. That you previously you had a 7-figure yoga clothing business that you sold in 2019, and you've embarked on an intensive healing journey that has led you to discover your purpose as a spiritual mentor and ceremonialist. And you work with dance and breath work and plant medicines and tantra and flow arts. And you've activated this flow consciousness and creatrix power. So your deep study and practice of the divine feminine mysteries have unlocked your medicine as a light language channeler and sonic alchemist in devotion to the priestess Isis and Hathor. And you work with Egyptian alchemy to support visionary creatives to activate their highest soul blueprints and birth their creative legacies with flow and ease. How beautiful is that?
Thank
Welcome.
you. Wow. So beautiful
Welcome.
just to receive those words, even though I know I wrote them. It's
Right?
like having that reflected back to me. It's like, this is who I am. Right. Okay. I'm going to run
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah. And so
Mhm.
much more than that too, I'm sure.
Mhm. So much. All right. Well, yeah, we're everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful body of work. I am really intrigued to learn more about your story. And I know your chapter is called Super Kali. And so I can't wait to read that chapter as well in the book. And I just want to acknowledge that I will put in the episode comments or description that you can get this book for 99 cents. The Kindle version will come out April 23rd, and then the hard copy will be available after that. And just thanking Radhaa Publishing House and Radhaa for introducing us here today. So tell me a little bit about yourself in this chapter.
Well, the interesting thing is that since I would say 2019, right after I sold my business, I began on this journey of writing. It was like a memoir was in the works, and it started out with some journaling, and I just started to really piece together and connect the dots with all of these certain themes that were happening in my life. I was going through my feminine awakening, so to speak. I I was learning about the power of my womb and my blood, and realizing that there was so much that I didn't know about when I was growing up, especially in relation to my reproductive health. I had some health
Mm-hmm.
issues, and I had things that were coming up, and it really led me onto this priestess goddess path, looking at what have we not been honoring about the feminine within and without collectively. And
Mm-hmm.
so I began writing, and writing was such a powerful therapy for me. It just was the thing that allowed me to move through all of the themes. Like there was so many themes. Like, when you start seeing the 11s and the synchronicities, and and I had a
Right.
huge breakup that year as well, and even the color of our house that I had to let go of was red, and just like
Mm.
the red of my blood, and all of these things were just really powerful. And so I began writing, and then as I started writing, it was kind of just like a generic practice. And then Kali, as the theme, just started coming into my life. And she was there to really rip it down and take away all the things that were no longer serving me. But at the time, I
Mm.
was really feeling like I was a failure. Even when I was letting go of my company, I felt like I was giving up on something that I'd been building for 7 years. And
Mm.
little did I know there was going to be a pandemic coming right behind me. So I really did
Right.
dodge the bullet there. But as I was deepening into this writing practice and telling everyone I'd already pretty much written it, especially my ex-boyfriend who I was dating at the time, who was also a writer, and he would laugh. He'd be like, "Is it an idea, or are you actually writing it? Like, are you putting pen to paper? It's like, oh, it's all in my head. It's pretty much done." But essentially, like over the pandemic, that was the perfect time for me to really look at the story arc of this longer memoir that had happened between, I would say, 2019 to 2020. And I didn't really even know when it was done. Like I
Mm-hmm.
was maybe one of those rare instances where I knew there was a memoir and I was still living it as it was happening, but I was onto it. And so I would just keep taking notes and, just like be very, very observant of how my life was unfolding. And then there was a moment in 2020, right after the pandemic hit, where I knew it was complete. Like the story arc kind of, it bookended
Mm.
itself. And that was just, there we go. That's the interval of time that this memoir is meant to capture. And it was, yeah, a series of deep initiations. And the first run of my writing was very much about my own personal healing journey in terms of the modalities I came across and the certain very deep experiences I had through plant medicines and breath work and movement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And after going through that experience, then I kind of put it on the back burner for a little while, and I began building my healing practice and building my career and making courses and things like that. And the book was like, and I actually had not completed it yet. I was about 75% done, which I actually still am sitting at right now. Shamelessly saying it takes a long time. But, I wrote about, I would say like 50,000 words or something. Then I went back to it about 9 months later and I realized I need to rewrite this entire book. It's not actually what it's supposed to be about, because through that process of really going deeper into the inquiry of like what was the medicine I was here to offer, I realized that I had left out a lot, which was in relation to my relationship with my own mother and how I
Oh,
had to move
wow.
back home, had to move back home with her and live with her again, and all of the things that came up in terms of our ancestral trauma that needed to be healed, and all the genetic stuff that I discovered after I started learning about it and realizing that ancestral trauma is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this thing where I had to restructure the whole book and change the theme, and it was still about Kali as a mother figure to come into my life and shake things up. But then I realized that my mother was also embodying Kali, and that she had also
Oh.
gone through a certain number of initiations. For me, it was, she betrayed my father when we were younger, and caused a deep rift in our family, and that was something that I actually had to live through on my own, because I also betrayed my ex-partner in not quite the same way because I don't have kids,
Mm-hmm.
but it was like this need to like actually live a similar timeline to my mother in order to actually ultimately be very forgiving and compassionate to her about what
Oh, I
happened.
see. Yeah.
So there was this deep thing with Kali kind of overlighting and presiding over the whole experience, and
Mm-hmm.
many instances of like of bringing me to the fire and pulling out her machete and being like, "You think this is where it ends? Nope, there's more, there's more, there's more." And it was a little bit exhausting over that period, but that to me was my real initiation into the goddess mysteries, into really understanding that it's not just about getting to know all these archetypes on a
Right.
conceptual level. It's actually getting to know them through your own family, your own relationships, and all of
Hmm.
the human
The
emotional
human
stuff
parts.
that
Yes.
comes through.
Yes.
And so when the opportunity came around to be a part of this book, which happened very serendipitously, and of course, there are no mistakes with this kind of thing.
Right.
I had already been doing this memoir writing. And so it was like, all right, well, I'm just going to condense it down into one chapter that captures a piece of what I'd written. And I thought I could just pull a chapter that I'd already written and just submit it, bing, bang, boom, we're good. But essentially, no, it actually was a totally different writing process of looking at sort of the, those overarching themes and being like, how can I tie a storyline together that is still very much capturing the story I went through, but of course I can't touch on everything, but there are certain key pieces, and it did really lead me back to those pivotal moments of moving back home with my mother, going back to my old childhood bedroom and having certain
Hmm.
experiences in this space that really did feel like a womb. I call it the womb room. And it
Yeah.
was this space that my mother and I spent time in, and it was also like an archaeological site. I remember going into this room and finding old remnants of my past because it just had become a dumping ground for my sister and I of all these random things. And to go back through them and to again weave those themes back together of how Kali has been a part of my life essentially since I was a teenager,
Yeah.
since I was a rebellious
Wow.
drummer in a punk band, and all of these moments of where I used to stick my tongue out and I used to like, I had red drums, and so there's all of these things. I had red hair,
Mm.
and I won't give it all away, but there's other
Yeah.
parallels that were just so obvious that this energy, this Kali Ma, had been in my life. And it was funny, when I had my clothing company, I had accidentally invoked Kali, which was the funny part of the story, which is where the story begins. I created
Hmm.
a slogan shirt, and the reason it's called Super Kali is because I came up with this slogan that was part of a goddess collection, and it was Super Kali, fiery mystic Shakti inner goddess, which was
Oh,
that like
wow.
supercalifragilistic.
Yeah, I get
And
it.
it was like, yeah, it turned into this like bestseller. And I remember being in Hawaii, where the chapter begins, and I was sitting with it's a friend of mine who was our photographer, and he shot that collection while I was there. And he was like, you just invoked Kali. Like your shirt starts with Super Kali. And I was like, what? And he's like, no wonder you're going through so much in your life. We were
Oh,
actually, he took me to this abandoned church in the middle of the jungle and it had no roof on it, but it had been spray painted with all of these goddess images. And Kali was there front and center with her big tongue out, her big blue body. And I was like, oh my God, she's right here. And I called her
oh
in,
my
and I,
goddess.
I threw, exactly, like it was an oh my goddess moment. And I threw her image and her words out into the world. And it's no wonder she showed up in such a big way to slash my life and to, end a lot of things that I was so attached to. But in hindsight, I realized, wow, she was really there for me the whole time,
Hmm.
even though
Hmm.
going through it was difficult. And I'm so thankful for that, because there was an arc that I had discovered in her nature as well, which I've also researched, in terms of her evolution as a goddess. Is that she starts
Hmm.
out as this like batshit crazy tongue for hire, which is just like she's just hired to lick up all of Raktabisha's blood, so that she doesn't that so that these monsters don't keep spawning.
Hmm.
And then she eventually turns into this more benevolent form, which is the Great Mother, which is that she has a body, she has arms, she's got many arms
Hmm.
now. She goes from 4 to 10 arms, and she's each one of those arms is there to nurture and offer and be in
Hmm.
service. And so looking at that story arc between Kali and my own mother, and how my mother used to be very brutal because I have an immigrant mother from Vietnam, and she grew up in a
Hmm.
war zone. And so
Okay.
that war zone energy, that survival energy was very much how I was raised in terms of like, you gotta perform or you're gonna die. You gotta you gotta get the A or
Right.
you're gonna die, and you gotta please me. And there's a scene in the book where I talk about rolling spring rolls with my mother, and how there was a this moment of like 10 seconds and it would crack, and 15 seconds it was mush, and it was like, you got to have the rice paper in the water at the right amount of time or you're going to disappoint mom. And so it was like going from that to then going to living with her again, and then realizing there was a playful side to her that I'd never
Hmm.
seen before, that we sort of began deepening into actually with the hula hoop. So my mom was like getting into hula hooping, and I was like getting into flow arts. And there was this thing where,
Oh,
we
okay.
would go to Zumba together and start moving. And it was this embodiment that was really starting to come alive between both of us. And then, she became more benevolent, just the same way Kali became more benevolent. So there was
Hmm.
that beautiful parallel of how, I had to come back full circle through some of the deeper emotional pains that were affecting me, and then also her too. So much was just so clearly obvious that this was part of my path and part of my story. So
Wow.
that's kind of the nutshell version
Wow.
of the whole memoir. But it's there's many more amazing things that occurred on my journey. But that part of it, I knew I needed to include in this book, because I feel like stories of the goddess is stories of the mother, right?
Yeah.
It's stories of great mother.
Right. Honor that and acknowledge that as part of the beauty of we just need to show up, and it doesn't always look like we think it should look.
Yeah. The voltage is real. The voltage is real, and I'm really feeling it here,
Yeah.
especially in these lands that are so alive. Gaia.
Right.
This is her most
That's
creative place on earth.
uh-huh. I know it. And I knew that's why I had my lodestone with me when I got on with you today, because I'm like, I need to be grounded. There's going to be some big energy coming through this. And your voice, and just hearing your voice, and you talk about what a jewel of wisdom your memoir is going to be in this chapter, and your life, as you just lived such a rich life, and you're just coming into a new part of what you're doing in the world, or maybe you've been in it a little while already, but your potential feels so strong and transformative. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your experience with being in a book collaboration like this with Radhaa Publishing House. Have you done a book collaboration before, or no? Okay. How has
Yeah.
it been for you so far? What do
It's
you
been
like
great.
about it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I really feel like this is the future of creation, is collaboration. So when we get together on in this way, and there's a structure that holds us, and the publishing house serves as that masculine energy that can bring us
Mm,
together, and create the container for us to flow in and contribute however we want to. It's really amazing because it can happen so quickly, and there's you really never know what the ripple effect is going to be of something like this when we all
yeah,
join forces, because
yeah.
essentially this is what we've always done. We've always come together in sacred spaces in circle as women. This is just a virtual circle across the entire globe, so it's covering more ground, and we're able to have a greater reach and impact altogether. So I think it's fabulous. I think that and there's also that element of the mentorship and the nurturing of the craft of writing
Mm,
we've done in
mhm.
our monthly meetups, and also that allows us to really be very, very kind to ourselves through the process. Because I don't know about you, but writing for me has really been the hardest thing, even though it's, I mean, it's one of those things that you never start out as a great writer. I mean, some maybe, depending on how much you've written when you're younger, but it's always about just doing it. And you get good at writing by writing. You don't,
Right.
there's no other way of doing it. And it also brings up the deepest, darkest self-limiting beliefs that you can imagine, like all the
Right.
perfectionism and all of the, yeah, all of that, right? Like imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, all of that. But when you lean into it and you do it anyways, and you know you're doing it with other people, and that we're all in the same boat about this, and that, you know, we're all here to channel in something really special, because that's really that's what already has been created. Like the book itself has already been completed. You know, even when we were starting, it exists somewhere in
Right.
the
Right.
quantum in its finished form. It's there somewhere. But, you know, the
Hmm.
journey to get to that place really is part of our own initiatory path, which is so beautiful, because in the reading of it, it also will convey that message to anybody who's going through it, because at the end of the day, we're all just showing that we've been through challenges and we got through it, and we got by with a little help from our friends, aka the goddess.
Right.
And she always has her way of intervening, and in this beautiful divine way. And as women's voices are coming up to be heard, it's really bringing a new frequency to the world that maybe hasn't been seen before, especially in this form. You know, we even like I read Eat, Pray, Love recently again.
Hmm.
That came out in 2006, and I was like, there's no mention of any of this in this book. And it was an amazing book and super inspiring, and one of the books that really got me going on my memoir writing. But I realized it was still written in a masculine paradigm where the consciousness of the feminine was not present. You know,
Right.
it was
So
like, I'm going to
true.
go to India, sit in an ashram, or I'm going to go and eat and feel the pleasure. And it was like, that's amazing. But are you really tapping into something deep and
Deep.
primordial? And no judgment against Liz Gilbert. I love Liz Gilbert so much. But it was interesting to read it again and being like, oh my gosh, we've come a long way. And
Right.
it's part of this global awakening of learning that the feminine voice is very unique, and the way she encodes our field is through the mythopoetic realm of
Hmm.
metaphor and signs and symbolism and all of this that maybe wasn't a language we were really speaking in or even perceiving in. You know, it was like, oh, I see something and I take it for face value, but maybe there's something deeper within it that is communicating to me on a completely different dimensional plane
Yes.
that now we get to tap into. So I can feel that for everybody that's been contributing to this body of work, that we're also bringing in that aspect of our highest self that
Hmm.
really truly wants to be grounded into reality
Hmm.
right now, because it needs to. Like, it's literally Gaia speaking through us saying,
Yes.
hey,
Yes.
hey, you've been
Yes.
kind of ignoring the way I operate for a while.
Hmm.
And I operate through beauty. I
Yes.
operate through, you know, transmissions from the heart. I operate through the messy chaos becoming order and going back to chaos
Hmm.
possibly and becoming
Hmm.
order again, you know,
Rebirth and death and
fractalizing out.
rebirth. Yes.
Exactly, right? Going through the cycles, and the
Yeah.
cycles of creation are, that's a thing that I've really been jamming on lately, and it's what I teach on and what I mentor on, is really going through that the stage of confusion, that stage of not knowing, or the stage of like, what am I signing myself up to do right now, or what is this big daunting task, and what is this,
Hmm.
you know, this outcome that I'd like to see, but I have no idea how to get there. And then trusting yourself and leaning into it and going through that process and knowing that it's a necessary step to be in that yeah, I just call it the confusion zone.
Yeah. Being
And then
comfortable
once
with
you do that,
uncertainty.
exactly,
Hmm.
and then you go through it, and then you realize, oh, okay, like I really just had to say yes and prioritize that aspect of me, the creational aspect, and also learn to resource that energy from my body, not from my
Yeah.
mind. But
Exactly.
there's something
Yeah.
that is so beautiful about the intelligence that we're holding as code keepers and wisdom keepers, that it's all already within, and that's what the feminine tradition and all of the ancient ways have really just shown us time and time again, is that the universe is within, and we can access it that way. We don't have to look outside of ourselves for the answers. We don't have to, be regurgitating everything that we've heard, but that sometimes things can just come in through this direct channel. And to me, it
Yeah.
holds a level of potency that carries on and kind of like keeps ringing out in that purity. It has that ripple effect, and I just feel it, right? So I know that was a big, long answer, but I feel like that's
Beautiful.
for everything we do. We should just do it together. It makes it so much
Right.
easier and way more
Does.
fun.
It does. And just so much more, amplification, right, of that frequency across the planet. So I'm really grateful for this collaborative, book, these books that she, Radha has done. This is my third one with her.
Oh, wow.
And, every time, has been just for me more of presencing that feminine aspect of myself, having worked in more masculine structures for my whole life. It's just been so freeing. And so when I speak with women like you, and why I wanted to do this series of podcasts is because it's so important for women, younger women, my daughter, that comes for them to start to experience this like right away, and the potential that they hold, for generations to come is what really, I really am holding the frequency for. But I just want to thank you for sharing all that you have. I mean, it's a beautiful transmission, and Kali even came in and she said, just
Yes.
deal with the uncertainty. Let's just anchor it
Yes.
in and let it be what it is. Through that messiness, the beautiful transmission has come through. I want to give you an opportunity to also tell us, how you have in a lot of ways already said this, but if you could find like a little pearl of wisdom to leave with our listeners about how this book has transformed you or opened up you to something new.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. I mean, it's ongoing, really. There's always new revelations. And to me,
Mm-hmm.
the true medicine of it was continue to prioritize your artistry, continue to lean into your creative, like unique practices of what it is that you do that lights you up. Whether you're good at it or not doesn't actually matter. It's all in the showing up for that
Mm-hmm.
creative life force, because essentially what it's doing is that it is putting more of that energy into the world, and your unique essence matters, of course, and there's no you. We're all so unique, and what we have to put out there, if we do it from this place of embodied wisdom, of truly speaking from the heart, it's actually creating the new earth right now. That is
Yes.
what is occurring. It's so powerful
Ooh,
because
gotcha.
then, yes, and the new earth, right? Like it's not the desolate centralized wasteland that, is still like very much here and crumbling
Mm-hmm.
very, very quickly. And all
Mm-hmm.
of those structures, all of those things that we bought into because we didn't know any better, because our parents really wanted us to be safe, and they were like, get this job and, do the things, and this is how you're successful in life. We're now living at a time where we have all the tools, right? We can
Mm-hmm.
self-publish, we can put our music out there, we can speak, we have our own channels now, we have our own platforms. All of this is at our fingertips. And I don't think there's any mistake that that masculine technology infrastructure has come in right before we all have to make this huge jump and leap in consciousness, as we're
Right.
all deciding what actually matters in life, which to me is freedom, is to be
Yes.
able to be in my own energy flow, and to be like, well, I'm in Costa Rica right now and I was just in Egypt for 3 months, and to be able to do my own work of whatever it is I'm discovering I'm here to do, which happens to be planetary grid work,
Right.
singing to
Mm-hmm.
the trees,
Mm-hmm.
having these moments. But also it's like, this is all source material. This is all things that I get to claim as my own lived experience, and therefore take that next step to be the creatrix and put that out into the world however I'm meant to, and then also, distill that into some form of medicine, and also receive the gifts that are everywhere, as a result of saying yes to that path. Because I mean, I didn't think I was going to be an energy healer. I didn't think I was going to be able to channel very high potency energies from certain ascended beings, and all of all of this stuff
Right. Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
now my career, and a way in which I can resource myself and find the abundance that's coming to me. But it's this reciprocal nature that happens when we actually say yes to our creatorship. And I feel like
Hmm.
that is something that is so hard to lose sight of, even if you are a creative being, even if you are an artist. Sometimes we just put all that on the back burner and go, oh yeah, I gotta, pick up the kids, and all the to-dos and all of that stuff that is also necessary. But is it important? Is it as important as leaving your legacy, right?
Right.
So that's what I've really been, it's a practice, and it's really something, it's a devotional exercise to keep showing up for yourself in that way. Because when you do, you're
Hmm.
then giving others permission to show up in the same way. And it's affirming the truth that when we're all in our joy and our creative energy, the world around us just begins to shift, and we actually can ground in the original Gaia template, or the ways in which nature knows how to fit everything together in its own
Notice
perfect
how
way.
organically.
Yeah, nothing is out of place. And I'm like, how is the same dirt making two different plants? I don't even understand how it can even happen. But it's the same thing that we're all resourcing. We all get to plug into the earth. We all get
Hmm.
to, and I'm glad we did a grounding cord before we came on this call, because there's something so special about being able to tap into one heart together, Gaia's
Heart,
heart,
Gaia's heart.
her womb
Hmm.
heart, that they're one and the same. And it's so
Hmm.
beautiful when we actually get to resource from that place and know that what's growing out of that is
In
our,
harmony. Yeah.
it's beautiful. And it's how we also create that mycelial network of, we don't have to work as hard as we used to. We got the
Right.
support, we can just keep offering, whatever it is that is in our dharma to be, of service with. It's there, and it's all here, ready to be unleashed. But it's also just like a full-on shadow work process that we and you don't realize how shadowy it is until you start. But knowing that you're not alone in that, and if you're listening to this, there's no mistake. This is maybe just a little nudge in the universe to be like, all right, what are you doing later tonight? Oh, is it scrolling on Instagram, or is it writing that chapter?
Right.
Because the consumption energy has really overtaken our consciousness.
It
It's so much
has.
easier to be in that consumptive, like, yeah, just
Gonna
passively.
check out. Yeah. Mm.
Exactly. But it always has its place. I still Netflix and chill from time to time,
I
but I'm
do
now
too.
like Gaia TV and chill because there's so much that's emerging right now, and we all have codes. We all have a specific
Hmm.
unique codex, and each one of those codes acts like a key, and it's actually doing the work to unlock our dormant DNA, and we become more magical on the other side. Like, who wouldn't want to be in that game of life versus the other one, which was just like, had a,
Flat.
yeah, it was, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So this is, it's
Multi-dimensional is
sparkly,
much better.
exactly. And
I'm
but
all
it
for that.
also, exactly. And then I mean, from what I've noticed in my own life is like the law of attraction and the spiritual magnetism and how all this occurs in this particular 3D plane is so wild. And the people you start coming across, the people just pop into your life, the beloveds, the divine union energy, if you're seeking a partner, like it's all this like next level union energy that wants to essentially bring you into this like harmonic that
The
is
harmonic. Yeah.
is so beautiful to be a part of. So share your voice, and
Yes.
just keep spreading the love. That's it. So
You all
that's,
heard that. Share your
yeah.
voice, share your love. That's show up for yourself and all the creative potential that you have, to
Mhm.
offer. It's not a time to be shy anymore. That's a conditioned
Yes.
structure that many of us grew up in, that have that fire within us to really make change here on this planet. So I really, really have enjoyed this conversation. You're speaking my language in such a beautiful way, powerful way. And how can people find you if they want to learn more about you?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Flow Priestess on Instagram as well as flowpriestess.com. I have a course called The Embodied Creatrix, which is an 8-week immersion and chakra clearing protocol. We go
Oh,
through each realm with a different goddess archetype, actually. And I find working with that and working with the somatic practices for me is what unlocked that flow, which, when we think about creating, we can create in flow state in small chunks, but we can also expand that into a flow consciousness that we occupy all the time. And that's like the fun. That's when everything is just so synchronous, and the next memoir is writing itself as it's happening. That's just how
right.
it's going. And yeah, so that's my signature program. But I also do energy healing. I work with Hathor specifically. She's the goddess of creativity and sensuality, and she's that cow mother that really is there to nourish our creation. So I also do a lot of that deeper work to clear out any blockages from the energy system, and then so that when you do step into that creator space, it's like you're stepping into a temple. And for me, that's really been that practice of making it sacred. Exactly. It's really, and there's many techniques to get there, but when you actually just acknowledge that you are the temple and that everything that occurs in this space is really truly sanctified, it just changes what comes out on the other side. And it really, I believe, has that it holds a frequency that can really penetrate through a lot of the distortion that is still lingering in the field. And it just kind of lands. I'm sure you've read things that you're just like, this one sentence changed my life, or this one story. And just one last thing I'll piggyback on is that storytelling aspect is the most powerful medicine. We can take ayahuasca, we can go on psilocybin trips and all of that, but story is what makes us human. It's what connects us all together through the threads of our archetypal nature. And that, to me, I think is re-emerging now when we're all understanding how powerful it is to receive story, because Indigenous people have been doing it forever, and they've been passing these stories down and down and down and down. And how your story weaves into that is just as important, because now we all matter. We're all part of the lineage that we're co-creating. Right. We're one global family, and we're all in this soup together. So how your story really inspires someone else, like there's no telling how much of an impact it can make, right? Like even Liz Gilbert, eating pasta real sensually is a part of
is a part of it.
Probably changed many women's lives, and now that we're just kind of at this new level of a deeper understanding of having transmission level works coming through us, like serving as these powerful keys, I think there's no stopping us from bringing heaven on earth. And I'll just leave it at that.
I agree. In this book, I think there are 15 authors. So there's 15 keys in there. So activating some part of your psyche that's ready to open up to a new way of life here on earth. So thank you again. Really beautiful, to speak with you. And I will make sure that I have those links in the description so people can find you and learn more about you. And let's just celebrate one more time this beautiful book by Radhaa Publishing House. Yeah. Go get your copy. And when the hard copy comes out, get that too, because there's something too about a physical copy book too that is magical. So
yes. Much better for beach reads, let's say that.
That's true. Any kind. Right. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful rest of your day and stay divinely inspired. Until next time. Bye-bye, everyone. Much love. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Divinely Inspired Woman. Again, I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins, and I am so glad that you joined us here today. I hope you left with some soul food to inspire your daily life. And if you would like to learn more about my work, please check out my website, patriciawaldhopkins.com, and you can find out more about my divinely inspired practice and tools. So, thank you again. Have a beautiful day. Hi. I'm dropping in here with an announcement about a program, a new mentorship that I am offering. It's called Voices of Gaia, and it's about bringing your voice, your leadership, your life in alignment with Gaia's guidance. So if you feel called to learn more about this program, it's a beautiful, rich program where we dive into your essence, and if you so desire, we develop your business around it and really blossom into your whole lifestyle, this wisdom from Gaia that wants to be spoken through you. So if you feel called, reach out to me at patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. That's patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. There's no hyphen between Wald and Hopkins. And I would just love to hear from you and see if this is a good fit. So thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.